So this election, you've really got Pauline Hanson's One Nation. It's the last bastion of conservatism, folks. I mean, we're the only ones that are really going to be sticking up for you. Because if you vote the same way you've always done, you're going to get more of the same. If you're happy with life, if you're happy with the way Warragul's going, well, just vote for Labor and Liberal, and things will keep on going, if not get worse. If you want real change, though, then you really need to consider Pauline Hanson's One Nation. Look up the policies, they're all online, and I think you'll get a pleasant surprise with what we offer. Now, some people are asking about the elections. I've worked with the AEC over a number of years, probably over a decade, so I've got a very good understanding of how the elections work. So I'm happy to take questions on people worrying about pencils and pens. You can take in a pen or pencil, it doesn't make any difference. So what will happen when you go into the booth, it's open between 8 o'clock and 6 o'clock, you'll go in and vote, you put your vote in the box. At 6 o'clock, the doors close. You'll have a few people banging on the door out the front saying, but I was only 30 seconds late, let me in, let me in. But unfortunately, that will be it. What happens then is they tip all those votes out that have been accumulating during the day, and then they'll sort them into first preference order. So they'll have a big pile there for Labor, big pile for Liberal, even bigger pile for One Nation, and the other sort of parties as well. They'll count those through, and then they ring a number. They'll ring up, in the case of here, you've got the AEC here in Warragul, they'll ring through and say, we've got so many primary number one votes for Labor, Liberal, One Nation, just smashed it, they're just fantastic. And then they report that up to the tally room up in Canberra, and they'll update the details there, and that's how they know basically who's won. If one of the candidates gets more than 51% of the vote, well, they're deemed elected. On the Sunday following, what happens is, if there's no clear winner, they start going through your second preferences. So they look at the party that's got the least amount of votes, say it's United Australia Party, they'll go through all their first preference votes and look at who's the number 2 vote. So some might go on to Liberal, some might go to One Nation, some might go to National Party. And they keep going until they get 51% of the people, one person's got 51% of the vote, and that person is deemed the winner. So that's why sometimes it takes months in a tight election to decide who's actually won. Now, whether you bring a pen or pencil, that's up to you, but I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories going around, but having worked in there, you don't have any time. Think of those poll clerks, they've been in there since 6 o'clock in the morning, and they just want to get home, you know? So they just count up all those first preference votes, they give it to the boss, and then he brings it through. There's no time to get the rubber out and change things around. So I just want to assure you that I've got a lot of faith in the integrity of our voting system. Having worked in it, I can, as I said, from first-hand experience. With the Senate paper, now it's important. You can either vote, it's the big long white one. You can either vote above the line or below the line. If you vote above the line, then you're voting by party. You're not voting for individuals. Well, you are, but the individuals of that party. So you've got to fill in at least 6 boxes on the top line, at least 6. Now it's important to perhaps do more than 6. 6 is the minimum for a vote to be valid. If you do 5, your vote will be discounted, it'll be thrown out. If you've got 6, it'll be valid. It's probably better to do 7 and keep going. Keep going until you get 12. It's good, because what happens is, if your 6 candidates don't get in, what happens is when they get to the 6th person that you've chosen, they say, well, that person hasn't got enough votes to go in. They haven't got a 7th person, so your vote becomes a discarded vote. It goes straight in the bin, it's not counted. So you lose your vote. So it's in your interest to fill in all the numbers across the top. The other way you can do is to vote below the line. That's when you're voting for individuals. You might say, well, I don't want to vote just for Pauline Hanson's One Nation, or I like some person, there might be someone that's a particular candidate, let's say Damien Richardson or someone like that. I want to make sure he gets in there. So you can vote below the line. You need to fill out at least 12 boxes below the line. But once again, you need to fill in as many boxes as you can, because if none of those people get in, your vote once again will be just thrown into the bin. It'll be discarded. It'll be exhausted. That's what they call it, the exhausted vote. So fill in as many. The trouble with voting below the line is you've got about 48 numbers, and if you double up on a number, 2 44s or 2 23s, your vote will be invalid. So you've got to be really careful, double check through, make sure that you've got sequential numbers going all the way through. Coming back to the scrutineers, their job, they'll be there working for a party, and they'll be looking razor sharp eyes at the votes. When they're putting them up in the piles of First Division votes, Labor Party are absolutely superb at this. They always have. They have very good scrutineers, and they'll sit and argue with you that 7 is really a 1, or that's a proper vote, and they'll sit there and try and wear you down. Fortunately, in those situations, an experienced poll clerk will then put that in a separate pile, a disputed pile, and then the AEC the next day will go through those and deem whether they're valid or invalid votes. That's about it, I think. I won't cut in on Alan's thing. He can talk a bit about what he's all about, but if you want to know anything more about the voting system, come and have a talk to me. I'm only too happy to answer your questions. Thank you.